finding the right mentor, finding the right subject matter experts that can work with you, and then like building trust early with them, I think was a key recipe that worked for me.
Thank you, Alex, for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. Would you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's an honor. My name is Alex. I'm currently a product manager in Amazon. Been with Amazon for a little over 3 years now. And before joining Amazon, I used to run my own startup for about 4 years. And that's what actually brought me to Seattle in the first place. And before doing my own startup, I actually started my career with Adidas in their marketing team based in New York. And then after Adidas, I joined Major League Soccer in their HQ in New York. By now, you probably can guess, but I'm a huge, huge soccer fan. So that's kind of how I started my career. And then I actually ventured out to Korea to join a brand consulting company. So I worked out of there for about 7-8 years where I was leading strategy for branding companies.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned something about like basically starting your own startup company. What was that about? And like why, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, so I like sneakers and my startup was around sneakers. So we essentially built a platform where we crowdsourced designs from designers all around the world.
Okay.
And we kind of figured out how to produce sneakers quicker than what larger brands could do. So to just give you an example, most major brands from design to hitting the market would take about 24 months. So like a 2-year period.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, from design concept to hitting the market, we could do it in less than 6 months. So we could do that at a fraction of a time. And also because it was a platform, we're able to get a sense of what the demand would be from the actual designs. So that was kind of the concept of the entire startup. And what's interesting is because it's a sneaker footwear industry, the entry barrier is actually really high. So there was an opportunity to democratize the industry there a little bit. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And I'll be honest, it wasn't like a flying success, but it was a very, very good experience and it was a very fun time doing it.
How long did you do it for?
A little over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Oh, wow.
definitely did a lot of fundraising as well.
Okay.
At times, I consider myself just a professional beggar as well, because I would literally beg for money in a professional way. But it's good times. Lots
Yeah,
of
no,
learning.
that's super interesting. So now you work as a product manager in Amazon. Tell me, so like I would assume that it was after you finished your startup journey that you decided to join Amazon.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your reaction to the job offer and like what happened there.
Yeah, so when I first moved to Seattle to do my own startup, just walking around the streets, you see a lot of blue badges. So I was super interested to see what that Amazon hype was all about, which is what got me interested. So that's what got me to interview and try it out. And to answer your question about what was my first reaction, I can share this part. So when I started interviewing, I start off with the phone interview and then you move on to, on-sites and everything. So
Yep.
after the first interview, it went pretty well, but then I heard back from the recruiter saying that, hey, the hiring manager liked you, but the position was filled. Would you like to talk to another team? So it's kind of like, all right, why not? And the second time is what actually helped me get the job and ended up actually me joining here. So I actually ended up doing probably close to 11, 12 rounds of interview for Amazon, which is
Wow.
probably more than the average. So the journey to get in was a little bit longer, I would say,
Got it.
compared to most
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, that's interesting. Fun fact: I actually interviewed for I think 5-6 roles here too. So I don't know how many rounds I did, but like probably close to 11, as you say. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about the process. Like, did you apply to Amazon or did someone reach out to you? Like, what happened there?
Yeah. So the process was I applied. No recruiter reached out to me first, unfortunately. But I think I was lucky to get past the resume stage because that's always a mystery box to me. I
Yeah.
don't know like who really passes or who doesn't.
Did
But
you have a referral? Sorry.
I did.
Okay.
I did. So I'm sure that was very helpful. And then once the interview started, in terms of prep, there's, obviously a lot of good resources out there. So, I try to leverage as much as possible. I think one thing I did is I did a pretty extensive write-up based on, all the known LPs. So I try to apply those leadership principles in different scenarios, based on my career, and just kind of came up with, multiple large themes that I can apply across, different leadership principles. So that was kind of the main mental model I had.
No, that's exactly the same thing I did. Like I basically create like a grid of LPs and then the stories that I have.
But I'll add this. I think you might try to segue into this a little bit, but obviously there's a lot of resources that can help you get in. But I think it's worthwhile sharing the story about how to navigate once you're in, right? Like how to grow within. Yeah. I think that's also valuable. And it might be specific to Amazon only, but for me, I actually first joined as a marketing specialist. And I transitioned into product marketing first, and then into actually product management, and then to more of a technical product management. So I went through different phases within Amazon. So one good thing about Amazon is that it does give you that opportunity to grow in a way that you want, and you can kind of build your own career. What's been super helpful for me in being able to do that was, I think I was lucky to find a mentor pretty early on in my Amazon journey. So that is one high recommendation I make to people. Just find a good mentor, especially if that person comes from a job family that you're interested in. That's also super helpful. So every work I do, I try to kind of connect the dots into seeing like what is the blueprint roadmap to getting to that type of role that I want. Yeah. So I kind of try to position different projects I work on to make sure it falls within that scope, and it can be a stepping stone or a building block for me to make those transitions. So that's been a very interesting journey for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think like one really good thing about like working at Amazon is that like you get the opportunity to basically shape your career as you want, and I think that's something that everyone kind of cherishes about working here at the company. So you said that you are now working as a product manager, closer to the tech field. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. So to set context, I'm part of the Alexa org. And within Alexa, I think it kind of divides into two large pieces. There's like the device part where there's actual products being sold. Yep. And then there's the service element of it, right? So as customers interact with an Echo device, you can play all sorts of entertainment through it. You can get news, you can get information, smart homes and everything. So my team falls under the services part of Alexa. And within that org, I am part of the audio growth team. So when we say audio, it encompasses music, radio, podcast, Audible, and then news as well. So my main role there is to find opportunities to grow customer engagement so they can enjoy any kind of audio content better on Alexa.
And you are responsible for basically building out the products as a product manager there, or like a specific area you focus on? Yeah,
so that's a very good question. It's interesting because just to give you a little context, my previous role before joining Alexa, I was in AWS, and there I owned a specific service. So it's a very well-defined area, right? So the science team I work with, the engineering team I work with, we all work under the boundaries of that service, the product that I'm managing. In Alexa, at least in my current team, it's a massive org, and the interdependencies, there's a lot of them. So my team doesn't per se own a single vertical, but we work horizontally.
Got it, okay.
So at times I have to be a builder, but at times I have to be an optimizer.
Got it.
I need to influence a lot of stakeholders. It's a very interesting PM role.
Got it. It seems like you actually moved from marketing to PM to product management, technical. Was there any sort of learning curve, like coming in as a
Yeah.
fresh into the technology field?
Yeah, there was a huge learning curve, obviously. And yeah, to your point, I moved from a non-STEM to a STEM role. So yes, there was. So when I first joined Amazon, aside from like the technicality, just given how big the company is, just getting familiar with the different mechanisms here. And as you know, Amazon's a very big self-service culture.
Yep.
So that was a big learning curve just to get acquainted that way. And yeah, when I first joined, I barely knew what an API was, So I had to work very closely with my engineering team to understand how to design APIs, how to understand my own service system architecture.
Yeah.
What was also super helpful for me, and kind of reverting back to my mentor, who was also a technical product manager, also coached me a lot. And I think when I was working with engineers, it's so easy for me to just reach out for help and then ask them to just explain things.
Yeah.
But one thing that I recommend is trying to figure out a way to make this a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just me always, asking for help. But, what I think was helpful for my engineering team, and the reason why they were also willing to help me a lot, is I try to provide a lot of business perspective. I also involve them a lot with customer calls. So from an engineering perspective, they also understand, the work they do, like how helpful it is for their customers, what is the impact on business. So it helps them connect the dot a lot more.
Yeah.
And also it naturally created a communication channel where a lot of their thinking, their voices get reflected into the strategy and direction of a product as well. So that ended up building a lot of trust where they were willing to also then invest time and just help me grow, so to say.
Yeah, no, that's a really good strategy, and I think it really comes out as who you are as a person as well, just like being able to kind of connect as a human versus just like a PM and like an engineer kind of relationship. So what do you like the most, and what do you maybe like the least about PMT?
More than PMT, let me put it into context of my current role. I think that might be a little helpful. So what's super fascinating right now is it's really a perfect intersection between deep technology like artificial intelligence. There's a huge component of entertainment, which is always fun.
Of course.
And then this is a customer facing. So every decision you make has so much impact, right? And obviously you have to be a lot more responsible for that as well. But being at the center of kind of those three intersections is super fascinating. So that's what I love the most about the current job.
And the part that you maybe like the least?
That I am not yet a deep subject matter expert in this space. I think, I went through a certain, growth curve to become the product manager right now, but then to become like a very great product manager, there's another set of, So I want to grow faster.
Okay.
Just not growing as fast.
Sounds good. Last question already. Advice for those who want to join Amazon as a product manager technical.
So I think for starters, you don't have to have a technical background, and I think I'm kind of an example of that. If you are actually like very interested, not just for the sake of having a job, but you actually care about it, then finding the right mentor, finding the right subject matter experts that can work with you, and then like building trust early with them, I think was a key, recipe that worked for me. So I guess we kind of talked about that earlier, but I would double down on those areas.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Alex, those are all the questions I had. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Yeah.